You're listening, and today, if you happen to be on social media watching Real Conversations with Jacob Young, sponsored by Boys Town. Now, Boys Town has been saving children, healing families for over 100 years. Also brought to you by Lane Frost brand, made for the champion in you. Now, be sure to use Jacob 15 to save on anything and everything. Lane Frost brand. Now, my guest this week is a psychonutritionist. And no, that's not the name of a new Lifetime movie. He's a doctor, a best-selling author who's devoted his life to creating nutrition products and new platforms to help everyone look, feel, and perform their very best. Now, having trained in sports medicine, he's also served as a nutrition consultant to top athletes. And as an athlete himself, has competed in rowing, cycling, and triathlons. It's no wonder he holds the title of the world's fittest CEO. My guest this week is going to teach us all about mental fitness. And of course, I'm talking about Dr. Shawn Talbott. You know what time it is. It's time to keep it real with Real Conversations with Jacob Young. And I'm going to welcome Dr. Shawn. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Jacob. Great to see you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's so great to have you. You know, not only have I been taking Amari supplements for some time, I've noticed such a massive difference in my own mental wellness, my kids' mental wellness, and of course, physical wellness, that I decided that I needed to share this and become a wellness partner with Amari. And Lord knows, after the past few years that we've had and have endured, now more than ever, our mental health has been pushed to the very brink. It's time for all of us to get back on track mentally and physically.
Yeah, 100%. You know, when we started the company 5 years ago and started selling products 4 years ago, we had no idea what was ahead of us, right? We knew that mental wellness was sort of a big issue that wasn't being very adequately addressed. You know, everybody's stressed out, everybody's tired, everybody wants to feel better. You know, everybody wants to improve their focus or their resilience and that kind of stuff. So it made sense to start a company around that. But man, oh man, what we've gone through the last 2 years, it has put an exclamation point on the fact that mental wellness is an important thing for people to focus on, you know? So yeah, it's a good time to be doing what we're doing.
And that's something that we focus on my podcast, of course, with all the guests that I bring on. So of course, it's always great to have somebody who's in the professional business of making the brain correct. But before we jump into too much of that, I really want to talk about your new book. Now, the full title is Mental Fitness, Maximizing Mood, Motivation, and Mental Wellness by Optimizing the Brain-Body Biome. Now, what exactly is brain-body biome?
Yeah, that's this really new way of thinking about mental wellness, right? Another way to say it is that how we feel is not just in our head, it's also in our gut. It's also in our heart. And this concept that I write about in the mental fitness book is about three brains. There's still important things we want to do for the brain in your head, you know, mindset and gratitude and, you know, mindful meditation and, you know, those sorts of things, which most people kind of think is the only option available to them when they're thinking about mental wellness and mental fitness, right? That, oh, I need to download one of these meditation apps, or I need to go to a yoga class, or I need to, you know, get my head right. Like those are all really, really important things. But the book is really an opportunity to say to people, hey, wait a minute, we refer to your gut as the second brain because it produces most of the neurotransmitters in your body. So most of the serotonin, somewhere around 95% of the serotonin, this neurotransmitter of happiness, is made in your gut. Most of your dopamine, around 70%, the neurotransmitter of motivation, most of the GABA that helps us relax. So the list goes on and on and on. But the idea is that we can feed the right foods, we can give you the right supplements, we can give you the right fibers, etc., to change what's happening in your gut. And by doing that, we can improve how we feel. And so, you know, we've done studies to show that we can improve mood, we can improve resilience, we can improve focus, we can improve energy levels, all by what's happening in the gut. So that's the second brain. The third brain is the heart. And we know that if we improve the efficiency of the heart, we change the electrical activity. The electromagnetic signals that come out of your heart can be picked up on by your brain waves. And a more efficient heart leads to a more efficient brain. So there's things we can do in the second brain, the gut, to help us feel better. Things we can do in the third brain, the heart, to help us feel better. And when we put all those three brains together, people are feeling as good as they've ever felt in their entire lives and going to a higher level of mental and physical performance that they've ever seen.
I can attest to this 100%. I've been taking products from Amari, and I've battled with depression. I've battled with anxiety. I've battled with all of those things over the course of my life. And of course, I've been on medications. And all I kept trying to do for so many years was, how do I figure out how to get off those medications
Right.
and be able to, is it downloading a yoga track? Is it, or listening to a meditation track? But I have to say, what I have been able to already achieve with the Amari products, focus wise, just feeling a little more calm, being able to handle those day-to-day hurdles that
Right.
I've had to overcome, have changed dramatically.
Right, right. And I'm not anti-pharmaceutical at all. I'm a scientist, so I focus on like where the evidence is. And for some people, that's the right approach. But also as a scientist, what I want people to understand is that there's a lot more options out there. And in this case, we're talking about natural options that can really get someone to, get that little bit of a tweak where their stress hormones are better, their neurotransmitters are better, their inflammation is better, their microbiome, which is where a lot of these things work, your balance of your gut bacteria, if that gets a little bit better, those can sometimes get you into that zone, so to speak, where you're a little more resilient. Maybe your appetite has changed because you're not stress eating anymore. Maybe you're sleeping better, which is going to set you up for a better next day. Like there's all these little things, little tweak in the gut, a little tweak in the heart, a little tweak at the microbiome. And pretty soon people are going, I'm feeling a lot better. And that means you're having better days, and you string together a few good days, and now you have a few good weeks. And, that's not replacing the pharmaceutical necessarily. But I think there's a lot of people out there that are looking for a natural solution and don't want the pharma, or are on a pharma like you just described, Jacob. And they're maybe having some side effects, or maybe not getting exactly what they're looking for from that drug. And they want something else. And this holistic natural approach, I think, is really hitting a sweet spot for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, it's not only hit a sweet spot for me, but it's also hitting a sweet spot for my son, who also, like myself, when I was his age, had ADD.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, it wasn't until later on in life that I was diagnosed with that. I was probably a late teenager, and I went on pharmaceuticals for that, and I just hated the way it made me feel.
Right.
At that time, it was Ritalin. I don't think even Adderall was really that popular at that
Yep.
point. And of course, every single year that he has been in school, every teacher has been tested. He's a really bright kid. But they always are saying the reason why he's failing in these subjects is because he has attention deficit disorder. So I've tried him on the kids pack, and he's automatically seeing a huge difference.
Right.
His grades are improving. He's connecting with sports even better. He's hitting the ball better. I don't know. The focus is just outstanding that he's getting from the products. And it doesn't matter how much we've trained over the years, because he's played baseball every single year. There's just this change in him, and it's definitely due to these supplements.
Right, exactly. And I mean, you just shared that, like that story that you just shared is the same exact story that I share all the time about myself and about my son. In fact, I just talked to my son who's in college now, and he said to me, he goes, "Wow, my mid-semester grades, my lowest grade is a 93." And like if you went back in time 5 years or 10 years to when he was, in elementary school, there's no way in heck my wife and I ever would have thought we would have that sort of a conversation with him. But it's just a matter of, again, getting sort of in that zone, and the new science of getting into that zone, right, mentally and physically, is all about the gut. The science around the microbiome and the gut-brain axis that I write about in the book is fundamentally changing how we think about these things, right? That they're not just brain issues, that they really are gut-brain issues. And if we can think of that gut-brain axis as a system, we can really bring these natural solutions to people that are more effective, more holistic, at least, in than anything else they've had access to, previous.
Yeah. Now, you've written several books about it, and we were talking about the brain body biome, and you've written a lot of books about that. And I wanted you to explain the connection between stress and weight gain.
Yeah, so that's really where a lot of my popular book writing came, right? So, as a scientist, one of the things that I love to do is not just do the science and go to scientific conferences and things like that, but get the science out to people in the public who can actually use it. So my very, very first book, more than 20 years ago, was just about stress. It was about stress hormones like cortisol, and how cortisol can lead to us feeling kind of crappy, right? It can lead to mood problems. It can lead to, anxiety issues and tension and irritability and all that kind of stuff. but it can also change our metabolism. So it puts our bodies in a fat storage state. So we're more likely to gain weight around the midsection. We're less likely to be able to release that fat, even when we're doing a good diet and a good exercise. Cortisol will also tell our brain that we're hungry, specifically for carbohydrates and comfort foods and things like that. So it's a terrible situation to get in because you're stressed out. Even if you're sleep deprived, even if you're getting only 6 hours of sleep every night, you're probably higher in cortisol than you ought to be. So, you put all that together and, most people are overexposed to cortisol because of the lives that we lead. And that directly leads biochemically to trouble losing weight or a predisposition to gain weight. And so that book was all about, hey, if we can lower your cortisol levels, you can probably lose belly fat. You can probably control your appetite. You can probably have better blood sugar control. And, all that kind of stuff is all wonderful. But now fast forward 20 years, and it's not just a cortisol story. Now it's a story about, like we were talking, a lot of cortisol happens at the level of the gut. The gut signals to the brain, but the gut also signals to your adrenal glands where that cortisol is produced. So it's sort of like 20 years ago, the story was cortisol. And now the story is still cortisol when we talk about, a sort of a weight loss effect. But now we can look under the hood a little bit. We can say, like, where's that cortisol coming from? And we can address some of those underlying issues. And, to be honest with you, 10 years from now, there might be, some other scientific developments. And we say, aha, we used to think it was all about the gut. And now we understand it's about this. But the state of the art right now is gut-brain axis.
Well, I have to say, I've been taking the GBX Fit, and of course, being in the industry as an actor, we're constantly, there's pressure on us to make sure that we're in our top peak physical form, just like any athlete that's out there. And from the GBX Fit, I have absolutely noticed, because I've always had a little bit of stomach issues, and maybe it's from stress, maybe it's from other pharmaceuticals or whatever, but I've always noticed that. And I'm telling you right now, my gut feels better than ever, but I'm actually seeing weight come off of me.
Right. Right. Yeah, that GBX Fit was a product that was a long time in development, right? So understanding that link to cortisol 20 years ago, now it's about gut-brain axis, but it's very how can I say this? Like, it's not just that any probiotic is going to do the job, right? It's this concept that we call strain specificity. So we know there are specific strains of probiotics, or there's a whole family of biotics. There's probiotics, which are bacteria. There are prebiotics, which are fibers that feed the bacteria. There are phytobiotics, which are plant extracts that help with the environment of the gut so that the bacteria can grow appropriately. And then there's a concept called postbiotics, which are usually signaling molecules that the bacteria will produce. So this GBX Fit is a quad biotic. We take one of each of those, one probiotic, one prebiotic, one phytobiotic, one postbiotic, and it's all scientifically validated, and put them together in a way that's specifically targeted towards weight loss. And so people will say exactly what you just said, Jacob. They'll say, oh, my gut's feeling better. Oh, my appetite's a little bit better. Oh, I seem like I'm not having those cravings. Oh, I seem, they have all these little things. And then they'll all of a sudden go, oh my gosh, I lost some weight. Or even more commonly, I lost inches around my midsection. My pants are fitting looser. My shirts aren't quite as tight, that kind of stuff. And like, we hear that kind of stuff all the time. And the best part about it is people don't feel like they're on a restrictive program. They don't feel like they're really like killing it in the gym or anything like that. We still recommend that people, move their bodies and, eat appropriate diet and get their sleep and all that kind of stuff. But doing this with GBX Fit really allows whatever program they're on to gain better traction and deliver to them better results.
Yeah, I work out every morning. I go for a 3-4 mile walk with my wife. It's our time. We spend together. We discuss what the day is going to be like. And I've always eaten very healthy. Yeah, I'm a shorter guy in stature. I just also think I have a genetic disposition. But I can absolutely validate I have dropped 2 pant sizes since taking GBX Fit.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's incredible. Now, for people that are out there that might not recognize the signals that they're maybe not in the best mental health shape or physical shape, I mean, how can they go about recognizing some of those?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because sometimes as we talk through this, people get the impression, they say, well, I don't have any of those depression, anxiety issues, so maybe this isn't for me. Or, I don't have, I'm not severely overweight, so maybe this isn't for me. What I like people to understand is that what we're talking about is for everybody. A lot of times I talk about this idea of a mental wellness continuum, where we'll get people who are at the low end of this continuum and they have, maybe they are depressed or anxious or burned out, right? And we can certainly help them feel normal again. We might get people at the high end of the mental wellness continuum, right? And that's some of the elite athletes that I work with, right? Who are at the top of their game. And if we said this continuum was from 1 to 10, they might be a 9. But they definitely want to be a 9.1 or a 9.2 or a 9.3. They want to get that competitive edge. So it could be for them too. But where most people are going to find themselves is somewhere in the middle of that continuum. They'll be on this 1 to 10 scale. They might be a 5 or a 6. They feel okay. They feel fine. They don't have any problems necessarily. They don't think they have a mental issue. They don't think they have a gut issue, etc. But it's those people that if we can take them from a 5 to a 7 or an 8, it literally changes their life. Their mood is better. Their performance is better. Their focus is better. Their memory, their resilience, the list goes on and on and on. And once you do that, it's not just a win for them. Like, they feel better. So that's amazing. They look back and they go, oh my gosh, I don't ever want to feel like that, like I was before. I thought I was fine, and now I'm great. I want to stay being great. So it's a win for them. But, then they're better in their families. They're better with their friends. They're better with their coworkers. They're better in their community. There's a huge ripple out from that, where it just kind of like good leads to more good and leads to more good. And it's a really, really cool thing to see.
Yeah. Being in top mental health and physical health leads to more success in general.
Absolutely.
I've never not had success because I've been out there trying to be the best I can possibly be. And if you can put all those elements together, everybody around you sees it and wants a part of that.
Right. And everyone sees it. That's a wonderful way to say it, because it's like, as a scientist, I've been doing this for so long, more than 20 years. And I see it every day, and it's almost become like a routine thing for me, but it never gets old. It never gets old to see somebody go from being pretty okay to amazing over the course of a couple of weeks, right? It's like I said, it's life-changing for them and life-changing for the people around them.
It sure is. And you've written a lot of self-help books. What would you say for anyone who is skeptical of self-help books? Because I've read a ton of them over the years, and I always find a little bit of good out of all of them. Anybody who's skeptical, what kind of advice would you give them?
Yeah, I think the big thing I would give them is that, look to where the science is, right? There's a lot of self-help books out there. As a whole, it's a whole big category. And I think some of the recommendations end up being a little pie in the sky, to be perfectly honest with you. What I can say is that the recommendations that we make here around the microbiome, around the gut-brain axis, around, this specific strain can do that specific thing, I think the advantage of it is that we can point to specific clinical trials, not rat studies, not rodents, not that kind of stuff, to say, look, in people just like you, in people who, we're feeling okay, we're maybe stressed out, we're maybe a little sleep deprived, we're maybe not eating a perfect diet, and that basically describes everybody. In people just like you, we can do this thing, whatever that intervention is, and we can generate this sort of a benefit. And sometimes the benefit is your mood's going to be better. Sometimes the benefit is your stress is going to be lower. Sometimes it's going to be your focus and your memory is going to be better. Those are all different ways we can improve psychological mood state. And so, people hear me say that and they go, yes, please, I'll take one of all of those, but it's what I really encourage people to do is try to figure out, like, all right, what is it that would really change the game for me, right? Is it lowering my stress? Is it getting a better night's sleep? Is it losing a few pounds? Is it, increasing my energy so I'm not dragging through the day? Like, those are all different flavors, so to speak, of mood state. And we have solutions for all of those.
Yeah. And let's talk about a couple of those solutions in the packs and those variety. Can you tell the people that might not have ever heard of Amari Global that are listening or watching, the difference between those packs, like if you're sleep deprived, if you're, going through mood swings, please.
Yeah, sure. So we have, so Amari Global is the mental wellness company. Everything that we do tracks back to mental wellness in one way or another. So it's that idea of, some people want energy, some people want mood, some people want resilience, etc. But because of that, we have about 2 dozen or so products now at the point of our development so far. But we also, instead of somebody saying, all right, I have to choose between these 2 dozen products, we put them together in packs. So there's a kids pack that you already mentioned, right? That's really geared towards, children and teenagers, to help them with good nutrition and microbiome balance and mental focus and those sorts of things. We have a pack that we call the Happy Juice pack, because it's really targeted to giving somebody a very quick boost in their overall feeling of well-being. And so that's a product that helps with energy, helps with mood and motivation, helps with metabolism, and also helps with neurotransmitter production in the gut. So that's something that's just 3 different powders that all have separate benefits, right? Energy and motivation and gut health, but you don't have to choose between them. You can just mix all these powders together in the same glass and drink it down. That's how a lot of people start their day. We've got a pack called the Fundamentals pack, which is a product for the gut, a product for the brain, and a product for the axis that connects them. So the axis is this communication network that whereby the brains talk to each other. That pack is really more around resilience and helping somebody show up in a terrible situation and just say, hey, this is a terrible situation, but we still need to get things done. Let's do this, rather than stepping away from it. We have a pack called the Transformation pack, which is all around mental and physical performance and weight loss. So it's a product called Edge that helps with mood, motivation, metabolism, and then a product that helps with specific fat release and fat metabolism. That's the GBX Fit that we just talked about a few minutes ago. So, it really gives people sort of these stacks, if you will, to say, yeah, that's the collection of benefits I'm looking for, or that's the collection of benefits I'm looking for. So you don't have to think like, oh, do I have to take all these products, or I'm confused about which one to start with. And people might start with one pack and get the benefits on weight loss, for example, and then decide like, hey, all right, I got to my fighting weight, so to speak. Let me move over to one of these other general nutrition packs so I get all the nutrients that I need every day. So, really sort of individualized, personalized approach.
A little something for everybody there.
Right.
And I have to say the Edge, I absolutely love. It's one of my favorite. And, once I started feeling, I was just in Sedona for the Sedona International Film Festival for a film that I produced this last year.
Nice.
And we were invited out there. We were screened out there. It was actually the premiere. Of course, there's a lot of different interviews that are going on, a lot of media that's there, and it becomes kind of a stressful scenario to be on, and they're throwing questions at you, and you want to make sure that you're answering and giving them all the goods. And I'll tell you what, the Edge was my go-to. It helped me focus. I stayed right on my game with it. In fact, I've just reordered some more. I love that product.
Nice. Yeah. And the difference with that product is that it's non-stimulant. So it doesn't fill you up with sugar. It doesn't fill you up with caffeine or any of that kind of stuff. So we have people who use it when they want to be on their game, sort of professionally, like you just described. We have people who use it as a pre-workout that want to get the energy and the motivation without the jitteriness. We have people who use it, like students who use it if they need that sort of locked in mental focus, so it really sort of covers a lot of ground. All natural, sugar-free, all the clean label things that people are looking for these days.
Yeah, it definitely has that. Now, everybody that comes on my show, Dr. Shawn, they all take a ride in the Jacob Young time machine.
Uh-oh.
I want to ask you, what advice would you give teenage Shawn?
Oh boy. Well, I think if I could go back and give myself some advice, I would say listen to Leary, who was one of my teachers in high school. And she really encouraged us to like follow our curiosity. You hear people say all the time, like, oh, follow your passion and whatever you're excited about and stuff like that. She was a little more nuanced. She said, follow your curiosity, because her idea was, and now I look back on this, more than 30 years and I go, oh my gosh, Leary was right back then. And of course, as a teenager, you're like, yeah, blah, 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 blah. But her idea was, if you follow the things that you're interested in, if you follow the things that make you come alive, that's going to be the thing that continues. I literally just got goosebumps when I'm remembering this. If you do things that make you come alive, that's not going to be good for just you. It's going to be good for everybody around you, right? Because the world needs more people who are coming alive, Yes. And so like I'd go back and say, hey, psst, listen to Leary. Don't let these extra years go by before you figure it out, right? She was right the whole time.
Wow. Isn't that something? And I have another question. This is the last question I have for you today. And again, I appreciate you, taking so much time today. My sponsor, Boys Town, their motto is "He ain't heavy, he's my brother," which started a very, very long time ago when Father Flanagan, and of course, in the vein of Father Flanagan, Happy St. Patty's Day.
Happy St. Patty's Day.
I see that you're wearing your green. Uh, the story goes, this is when they were just establishing Boys Town in Nebraska, and they didn't have all of the donations that they needed to take care of all the different medical problems. And one of the boys who was disabled had to be carried around from game to game, from class to class, and the boys took turns. And one day, Father said to one of the boys, he said, "Isn't he heavy?" He said, "He's not heavy, Father. He's my brother."
That's great.
Meaning, at some point in our lives, we've all had somebody carry us. Who's carried you?
Yeah, well, it's lots of people, like, of friends, colleagues, my wife, for one, is probably my biggest supporter. But I'll tell you this. Speaking of brothers, right? The reason I got into doing what I do, I had a PhD in nutritional biochemistry, right? And I did work with Olympic level athletes and professional athletes, and great lifestyle, right? Being a high level sport nutritionist, and God, 2001, end of 2001, my younger brother died of a drug overdose. And it really threw me for a loop, right? Here I am living this cool lifestyle, and, I didn't have the time to, attend to the, needs of my younger brother, right? He struggled with drugs for his whole adult life, right? Clean and then using, and then clean and then using, and we don't have to rehash that. But I think back on that, and I go, you know what? If I knew then what I know now about mood and resilience and the gut-brain axis and all the research I've done around the microbiome, these tools that we have access to now would have been the perfect thing for him back then. And who knows, right? If we could fast forward or reverse ourselves 20 years, if these, and I could go back in time and have these products with me, they probably would have been the perfect thing, right? So his memory really pushes me along, and has since the first cortisol book to the one that just came out on mental fitness.
Wow. That's so powerful. Thank you for sharing that here with us. And I also want to say thank you so much for the great advice. And for anyone who wants to learn more about philosophies and the methods of Dr. Shawn, there are practically a dozen books that he's written that are available wherever you buy your books online. And anyone who wants to heal from the inside out should definitely check out Amari Global. Thanks again for joining me today. Again, now more than ever, we could all use a little bit of self-help advice from you, Dr. Shawn.
All right. Thanks, Jacob.
And of course, any products we were talking about today, you can access through my website, Young Healthy Solutions. So if you're interested, check those products out and do your research, because I'll tell you what, once you do your research, you try these products, you're going to be bowled over. So thanks again.